So, I feel like I already kind of stepped on some toes with the whole moral relativism thing, but that's a hill I'm willing to die on because Jesus claimed to be the truth. So, if he claimed to be the truth, I'm willing to die on the hill of what Jesus claimed to be. Anyway, side note. I think this segment could also ruffle some feathers for different reasons. But I put up a poll, an anonymous Q&A link, I should say, and I've gotten a few people asking about this thing that I posted on Instagram. So, first of all, side note, I'm not a huge fan of social media. I don't like social media. You may think, oh, that's crazy, because if you follow me on social media, you'll see that I do post fairly frequently. Uh, Social media for me is a ministry and it's a connection with people, but I also think that there's a lot of negatives to social media. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do post on there. For one, because I want to grow a connection with anybody who may be interested in listening to the show or to other things I do. And there are reasons why I'm on social media. And it's not because I love social media. But I did go ahead and post a picture. And it was a picture that, at first glance, doesn't give off good vibes. And that's totally fair. That's why it's ruffled some feathers, why some people have been asking me about it. But I figured I'd take a segment to explain it because there's meaning behind this picture. So I went to a concert, and it looks like I'm looking back at this old post. This was in September. And I went to a concert, a Sandy Patty concert. Now, Sandy Patty is a Christian music artist who's, if you're younger, if you're around my age, you may or may not know who she is. But she came out to a church near where I'm at, going to college. And she went on stage, and I was involved at this church. So I actually got the honor of being able to be on stage with Sandy Patty while she sang God, I think it was God Bless America, as she sang that. And there were, how any Christian concert has like, let's raise money for this cause sort of thing. This is no different, of course. So Sandy Patty was raising money for a group that essentially brings Bibles to communist countries. Now, again, this is not a primary political show, and I don't think this is a political thing to talk about. But the reality is there are communist countries out there. I think their governments are terrible. I think that they're corrupt, and I think communism is an evil ideology. That's not what we're talking about here exactly. Sandy Patty is bringing Bibles to communist countries because in these countries, people are not allowed to have the Bible. So I think it's a worthy cause. Now, what happened was a friend of mine came up to me and essentially said, do you want to carry a communist flag down the aisle of a church? And of course, my immediate reaction is absolutely not. I don't want to carry a communist flag down the aisle of a church. But when he explained to me what the analogy was there, I suddenly became for it. Because if you look at this picture, and I can put the picture on the screen, I'm on stage with a number of other people that I know, fellow students and friends, and we put duct tape over our mouths to represent the fact that you do not have free speech in these communist countries such as North Korea or Vietnam. And we also carried the flags in solidarity not with the government or with the country, but with the people. The flag was to represent the people of a country like North Korea, and the tape was to represent that they don't have freedom of speech. And we marched in to God Bless America, and a friend of mine carried the American flag in, higher and bigger than the others, because in America we do have freedom of speech. And in America, I can legally own a Bible, right? In North Korea, I cannot own a Bible. And that was the cause she was going for. So this was an illustration, an analogy of what we can do for the people who live under oppressive regimes, such as the regime of Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And of course, when I post a picture of me on stage carrying a flag of a communist nation with Sandy Patty singing with the American flag higher, I understand why that would maybe bother some people. But I posted a description here that's a decent size explaining what the deal is. And I believe this is a powerful illustration. And it brings us to a broader point. And the broader point is this. First of all, don't jump to conclusions. I'm not attacking anybody because I got some comments and I appreciate the feedback. I got comments both online, in direct messages, and in person. And I appreciate that. I appreciate feedback. I hesitated at first too. Like I said, when I was first asked to carry a communist flag down the aisle of a church while Sandy Patty was singing God Bless America, I was skeptical too. But I was convinced of the analogy because I think it's important. And what does that analogy mean? It means that, sure, America is a great country. I'm going to stand by that. I think America is a good country. And we live in a place where we have not only the ability to preach the gospel ourselves and preach the gospel to each other and to have concerts and to have money to put on those concerts, but we also have the resource and the ability to send Bibles to countries who do not have those resources. I think that's a worthy cause. I think that's a valid cause. And I think that, look at where we're at in the world today. We in America, again, might step on some other toes here, but we complain about things in the United States that are just silly compared to what other Christians have went through, right? Oh no, I got banned from Twitter. I know. I don't want to be banned from Twitter either. I think it's wrong to ban people from Twitter. However, you we act sometimes like getting banned from social media is on the equivalent level. We react the same way, I should say, as like you would expect somebody like Simon Peter to act when he's crucified upside down. Okay, we are blessed in this country. We are not persecuted in the way other Christians throughout history have been persecuted. I mean, literally in the first century, it was the blood of martyrs is seed, and Peter was crucified upside down. All of the 12 apostles were brutally murdered, with the exception of John. We live a pampered, safe life in the United States, and that's why it's important to like sing a song like "God Bless America." We are blessed to be able to practice our religion freely and be able to share it with other people. And there's a broader context here. I mean, literally, we how can we complain in the United States when somebody in North Korea is being put in prison or executed for having a Bible? You know how many Bibles I have on my shelf? If I look up at the shelf right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've counted 11 Bibles just within my eyesight right now in this room. And I have more of them. There's 2 more in that bag. There's another one over there. I have 15 Bibles. There are people in North Korea who have none. So when I posted that, I knew I'd get blowback. I knew that it would kind of shock people initially. But I believe it's important. I think it's important for us to understand that we in the United States, I am literally recording myself on a dang near $1,000 iPhone, posting it to social media platforms on a very nice, expensive desktop setup so that I can spread the gospel and do whatever God wants me to do. There are people who are starving in other parts of the world they can't even imagine an iPhone. We are blessed. And we ought to be using those blessings to spread God's love to other people. And I think that includes other people in North Korea. And, I heard a concern, and I'm glad this person was thinking. I heard a concern from somebody that perhaps if we send that Bible over to North Korea, what if the person who gets it gets caught with it and then is executed? Well, for one, we're not at fault for what North Korea does. The whole point is that they can't have Bibles. But the person doesn't have to take it. What this group was doing is they airlift Bibles in balloons to North Korea. And they land, and you as a citizen of North Korea have a right to either take it or leave it. I think it's a beautiful option, and I think that the early apostles would happily die in order to have a Bible. Would you? And I'm assuming that most people watching this are in America. That's not maybe a fair assessment. But would you as an American willingly die for having a Bible? Would you willingly die for Christ? We're so pampered and blessed in the United States. In fact, that's where most of our problems come from, friends, is that we're so blessed that we forget that we need God. But if somebody were to come to you tomorrow and hold a gun to your head, what would you do? This is an important question we ought to ponder, because the early Christians, they didn't have to ponder this question. They knew what they would do because it happened. In fact, on the back of my phone case, I have a little fish, the Christian fish. And it says the word athis, which is the Greek word for fish. The early Christians are persecuted so much that the story goes that when they would meet each other on the streets, one of them would draw, half the fish in the dirt, and then the other one would draw the other half of the fish in the dirt. And that's how they knew that they weren't going to kill each other, because they knew they were safe. That's the kind of persecution the early Christians have. And we're worried about getting censored on social media. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people to be censored on social media. Free speech is very important. And we don't want an oppressive government. But the reality is, we're blessed. And that's what that post is about. And I hope that we can all remember how blessed we are. Let's thank God today for how blessed we are to be in a place where we can spread the gospel. And if you're watching this in a place where you can't, I'm praying for you. So thank you for those of you who reached out and talked about that. And hopefully this episode is a blessing. Hopefully it got you thinking. And that'll be about it. So thanks for watching this episode of What is Truth. God bless.